Chase Thomas podcast. My nephew needs me to record. See, I already hate it. I hate it.
All right, welcome back to another episode of the Chase Thomas podcast from still the aforementioned Chase Thomas, coming to you live from Knoxville, Tennessee, Everything School HQ. Joining me, host of Talk Sports from 7 to 10 a.m. Monday through Friday, right there on FANRUN Radio and Fox Sports Knoxville 105.7 FM, 1340 a.m. and always streaming for free on that FANRUN Radio app. It's Cody McClure, co-host with John Reed in the mornings. Cody, good afternoon, my friend. How are you?
What's happening, brother? It's good to see you. I feel like I haven't seen you in about an hour, so this is good. It's nice to see your face again.
It has been an hour. You're pretty. Last night you said something very kind last week about what I brought to FANRUN. You know, the positivity side of things, and things like that. So I appreciate that.
Well, it's mostly a bunch of jerks around here, you know. So we could use, like I said, the breath of fresh air. Because everybody else around it's like a viper's den sometimes dealing with all these guys. You know, you got Russell and Bear and John, and I mean they're all rude in their own way. But so am I. So you know, it's the way it goes.
Hey, they're all great and they're all fun to have on this very program and to work with and everything else. And it's gonna be an exciting football time here in Tennessee. Cody McClure felt great this morning. You were talking about the weather. I'm right there with you. Perfect weather this morning. If it could carry on all day long, I would have that all year long. You were 100% right on Talk Sports this morning on that.
Oh man, I mean there's few things I value more in my life than good weather. I mean, I moved all the way to California just for that, pretty much, and it ended up not working out. I came back home, but you know, I'm willing to sacrifice a lot for good weather. I love my sunshine and just those perfect days, man. I mean, the more you can get, the better. Which, you know, some people say you just got to take the good with the bad, and the bad weather makes you appreciate the good weather more. I don't know if I agree with that. I think I just am okay with having good weather all the time, but it's good this week. The weather gods picked a good week with it being the kickoff to football season.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of football season here, Cody, Saturday, we're 4 days away from Tennessee, Mike Matthews days away from Tennessee, Syracuse. What's your gut on how this game goes on Saturday?
I think Syracuse has just lost too much. I mean, if this was last year's Syracuse team, if it was Kyle McCord and that offense and all those guys they had on the team, I mean, they're replacing almost their entire team this year. Now they were good last year. They were a veteran laden team. They had the number one passing offense in the country. McCord was awesome. I like their scheme. I like the coach. I mean, Fran Brownie's doing a good job, you know, but I just think with an ACC roster in general, like if Tennessee was playing last year's team, I would still take Tennessee in the game. I think top to bottom, you got to look at the rosters. You got to look at the talent on the field. And there's no world for me in which a Syracuse team replacing like 18 starters or whatever it is. I don't know the exact number, but breaking in a new quarterback, there's no world in which that Syracuse team should be able to play with Tennessee. So, and that doesn't mean it's going to be some big blowout because Tennessee, you know, we got our own problems. We got our own stuff we got to figure out. It's week one. We got to see what our quarterback play looks like. But overall, generally speaking, talent, coaching, I just think Tennessee is at least double digits better than Syracuse.
I tend to agree. I will say, though, there is some interesting parts of this that I think could be fascinating where Tennessee was not a heavy blitzing team last year, and it got them into trouble against Georgia in particular. And I don't think you're going to have the defensive line that you had a year ago. You don't have any first or second rounders on this defensive line who's going to start this year. I kind of wonder, you have an Alabama transfer at left tackle for Syracuse. You have 3 new receivers, 3 talented guys, though. Like, we'll see. Jonte Cook was a former 5-star guy. He's going to be in the slot. Well, I'm curious what he looks like. But Gill seems like he's someone who could be a breakout guy for Syracuse. And then Justice Ross Simmons as well. Like, that's still, like, it's different than what they had a year ago. But there's real optimism there. Steve Angeli has played power 2 snaps for Notre Dame. I am kind of curious with him being more of a pocket passer type. I don't think you can allow him to slice and dice you and pick on a secondary that is ushering in a new corner, spring transfer guy, and Colton Hood, potentially a new starter at star in Jalen McMurray, and then a new starting safety in Idris Farouk. Like, part of me wonders how aggressive Banks is going to be early on, because I think you got to make Angeli and company uncomfortable. They need to be on their heels. I'm very curious what the game plan looks like defensively out of the gate, because it could feel like an Arkansas-Tennessee game of last year if you let them slice and dice you, or Florida with Graham Mertz and company. We've seen those kind of games before where Tennessee just can't get off the field on third down. They're not getting home, and the drives just don't end. And then Tennessee, you look up the score and you're like, man, it's 7-3. And Tennessee hasn't really had the ball that much because they went 3 and out a couple times and they can't get on the field on third down. Like, there is a path. Like, I wouldn't bet on it, but I do think something that I have circled is I think Tennessee is not going to be able to get away with sending 4, especially with this new look secondary in a lot of ways. There's some firepower on the Syracuse side of things, and Angeli could be a dude. So we just have no idea what he's going to be in the system and only having a couple months there. But I don't know. I think that is, to me, what will define whether or not this game's close or close throughout is, does Tennessee go super blitz heavy and really try and rattle all these new pieces on the Syracuse offense, or do they keep things in front of them, kind of what they've done in the last 2 years?
You mentioned the Arkansas and Florida games last year for Tennessee. I would just say that I think when you're looking at a team like Florida and a team like Syracuse, top to bottom, I think that Florida roster is just so much more talented than Syracuse. And Arkansas maybe more comparable, Syracuse and Arkansas, talent-wise. But, that Arkansas game was a true road game, and we were kind of in a bad spot on that game. It was after that emotional Oklahoma win. I think we were a little too up there on our high horse, and that was a tough place to play. I think a season opener at a neutral site is a different story for me. It's just the kind of game that Tennessee typically wins. I would like to know, and I don't know where you could find this. I could do a little bit of my own research, maybe later tonight, and find this and report back to you. But the last time that what I would call a middle tier ACC team beat a top third tier SEC team, because I think just program wise, I think that's the difference. I think Tennessee is right up there, maybe not with Georgia, not with Texas, but talent wise, a little closer to Alabama. Still not quite on Alabama's level either, but with the LSUs, the Ole Misses, I consider us to be kind of a top third SEC program as it stands. And Syracuse, based on what they've got this year, from what I've seen, I just don't think, like I said, I don't think it's a team that should be able to compete with Tennessee on the field. I would like to try to find an example of that, because I know the top of that conference is good. Like Clemson has championships. They can play with anybody in the country, but I just don't see it out of the Syracuse team. Maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe it'll be closer than I think. But the quarterback, Angeli, I liked what I saw out of him just very briefly last year. He's been on the big stage, at least in that Penn State Notre Dame game. But
yeah, you don't want him to get
very minimal.
Yeah, and I think Tennessee's come a long way from where they were at Pitt 2 years ago or 3 years ago now. But I'm with you where I just don't think there's a way Tennessee loses this game. But I do think there are ways where this game's close. I do think there's ways for this Tennessee team to blow them out. Like, I don't know. I'm very curious how it ultimately unfolds on that front. But what is the biggest question for you, Cody, that you hope is answered in this game for the Tennessee side of things?
The biggest question that I hope is answered is not so much what the quarterback looks like. That's the obvious answer for everybody, but more so just how this offense looks, how it is operationally. Like, I want to see, and the quarterback, of course, will be a big part of that, but I want to see how that offensive line looks. There's some chatter out there about this potentially being one of Tennessee's best offensive line units in a long time, maybe the best in the Heupel era as a unit. So I want to see how they run block. I want to see how they pass block. I want to see the true freshman David Sanders, see what he's got. I don't need him to whiff. I don't need him to get too many pre-snap penalties. You're breaking in a true freshman. You expect a couple of growing pains, but when it's a 5-star like he is, top offensive lineman in the country, I think the expectation is greater. You expect less of that acclimation time and more so just – go on out there and dominate and block that defensive line, So I'm excited to see him. I'm excited to see who trots out there first at running back, who gets the bulk of the carries. Is it Star Thomas you go to? Is it the local kid, Deshaun Bishop? I mean, what is the split load like? And then obviously the receivers are very intriguing. Staley, Matthews, Brazel, and the young guys, a Radar Jackson or somebody like that. Is it Travis Smith? Travis Smith.
Mm-hmm.
What do you look like at wide receiver? Do you have anybody stand out in that group?
Yeah, and it's like, do they play? How many snaps do they play? Do they go back to that 3-man rotation if Staley, Mike, and Brazel are healthy? Do they not rotate? Right? Like, that's something that could be interesting. We look at the snap count on Sunday, Cody, and we're like, oh, Brazel, Matthews, and Staley played like 50 plus snaps apiece here. And that rotation, they're just going to be fine if they're healthy. I'm right there with you with the offensive line too, because what did Lance Hurd say today? He referred to him as violent, I think, when asked about the Tennessee, which is what you want to hear when it comes to your offensive line in the SEC. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a gigantic year for Hurd, and I've been very bullish on Lance Hurd all offseason, and it's obviously going to be a lot of fun to have a true freshman 5-star number 1 tackle in Sanders anchoring the other side. But I'm with you. I'm very curious how Pendleton handles center, because we've been accustomed to Cooper Mays for 4 years, and we've seen a little bit what it looked like when you didn't have Cooper early on 2 years ago, and it was kind of
23 Florida. I remember that one well. Yeah, it was terrible.
It was tough, but it was a tough spot for Ollie to be tossed into, because Ollie was a good left guard, but he was thrown in there because you didn't have an option, right? Like, you've had all offseason to kind of find this replacement for Cooper, but we all thought it was going to be Satterwhite. Now it looks like it might be Pendleton, who was a guard at Notre Dame. I don't know. How does that work?
Well, and how about those 2 guards? I mean, I think those are both interesting stories too. You got the one kid, he's a homegrown kid. Perry, I just learned all about him today. I didn't. This guy kind of came out of nowhere for me, because I was under the assumption it was going to be Satterwhite and then Pendleton there on the offensive line, but Perry, he's been a standout all through fall camp, and he's a Tennessee guy. He's a homegrown guy, and you always want to root for those kind of guys. And then Wendell Moy at the other guard. I mean, they say that he's just a road grader. That's what they say. Both of these guards were recruited for their run blocking. I think first and foremost, they're good pulling guards, and they're good run blockers, road graders. Those are the kind of guys I like on the offensive line. Guys, they got a little bit of that mean streak in them. They're a little nasty. That's what you want out there. So I'm excited to see this offensive line. My hope is that this is a game where they can go out there and really push around Syracuse, and maybe we kind of learn a little bit more about what they've got.
Yeah, and then when you think about the breakout Vol for you, we've mentioned a lot of names here. Who is your Cody McClure breakout Vols pick? Who are you most confident in has a breakout season for Tennessee this year?
Man, I really want to say one of the wide receivers. That's what I want to say, because that's what I want in my heart. I want this team to be fun again. I don't think you're going to see a running back have a breakout season, because I think it's going to be more so a committee approach. Last year you had Sampson. This year you're going to have 3 guys who are vying for carries. Maybe somebody stands out more so than another guy, but I think it's more likely, if you have a breakout player on offense, that it's going to come at wide receiver. And to give you a name, I don't know if it's more likely to be Brazel, Matthews, Staley, or one of the young guys, but I really like Staley myself. I hope that he can be, because by definition, when you say breakout, if Matthews comes out and he's really good, people will say, well, of course, he was a 5-star. Like, that's kind of what we expect from him. So just by the definition of breakout, I think I would say Braylon Staley, because we've seen very little from him, whereas we know what Brazel's got and we know what Matthews should have. So it's got to be one of the younger guys. I'll go with Braylon Staley.
Well, and it's interesting too, because I think through 4 years, Tennessee has had 2 breakout slot guys and 2 breakout outside guys. In 21, it was Tillman. He broke out for Tennessee out of nowhere on the outside. And then in year 2, it was Jalen Hyatt in the slot. In year 3, it was Squirrel in the slot. And then year 4, it was Dante Thornton on the outside. So they're all very different players altogether, but it doesn't seem like it's been one of those where you have multiple guys break out at once, So if it's one of the young guys, it's going to be one or the other. One of them is going to have the kind of special, really great year. We look at him, man, what a year for this guy. And it doesn't also translate to the next year. You never know with injuries. Squirrel, his best year was 23, and last year was really, really tough for him. But I just think Staley with the slot would not surprise me if he's the guy. But I kind of wonder, who do you think is better? Does Tennessee have a better season if it's Staley or Mike Matthews breaking out as the star? Or does it matter?
I mean, it'd be great to have that deep threat. It's just Matthews is the guy to me that you almost expect it from. But you can't say that for a fact right now, though, because the only guy that's coming back who has meaningful, real experience out there is Brazel. And so I think when you came into 21, like you said, you saw Tillman break out. You came into 22, you thought Tillman was your top guy, and then Hyatt goes and wins the Biletnikoff. So, to me, it could be anybody. It depends on how this offense is moving. And, it all ties together, complementary football. You got to have the blocking up front so the quarterback's got time to throw. I mean, if the quarterback's running for his life all the time, he's not going to be able to find anybody. So how accurate is Joey? How often can he connect on that deep ball? Do we get those big shots back? I mean, these are all questions. Like you asked me what we're looking forward to the most here week 1. I would just say all of it. Offensively, because we get an entire game finally under our belts to see what we've got.
I like it. Who is the Vol player whose role is a lot bigger? They've been here for a little bit, but you're most excited about it as an expanded role for them. Is there one in particular for you this year?
An expanded role on the team? Like, can I say a defensive guy too?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's a few guys you could point to. But for me, I think Colton Hood coming in because, Jermod McCoy is a guy that you don't really expect to play week 1. I know we haven't officially seen a depth chart.
Yeah.
I thought we were going to get that today, and then I guess that didn't happen.
Looks like Saturday morning is where the count is on it.
But I think it would be kind of a shock to everybody to see at this point Jermod McCoy on it. Based on the reports we've heard, is that we're kind of targeting. Some people have said it as far out as the Alabama game, which I hope it's not that long. I hope we could get him for Georgia. But because of that, I would say you're going to need help at corner there. You're going to need Colton Hood to come right in, the transfer from Colorado, and play well. And he's got Big 12 experience, but due to injury, his role on the team now I think is going to be more important than we thought it was, maybe initially. So. And then, David Hobbs is out too. So who steps up in his place? That's going to be a multi-week injury on the defensive line. So one of those guys there is going to get some more playing time. And I would say those guys offensively, I don't think I have a good answer to your question offensively, except just to go back to the receivers. The fact that you do have a couple of freshmen there. Everybody else's role seems pretty defined. I mean, the linemen are defined, the Kitzelman, the running backs are kind of set. So do you have a guy you have in mind?
Well, I love the Colton Hood one because obviously Kamal Hadden was a spring transfer portal guy from Auburn, and it took some time for him to get acclimated. Colton Hood, I think, was a higher guy out of high school, a 4-star kid out of Georgia, goes to Auburn first, then goes to Colorado. I mean, he was going to start at corner at Colorado this year. And I think he's someone who's probably one of your starters next year because it's probably it for Ricky and Jermod. Ricky, if he has a good year especially, he's probably NFL draft bound. So you're going to have 2 new starters at corner. You hope Colton Hood's one of them. And I think if he makes you ease the transition and you can be really cautious with Jermod, that's a huge win for Tennessee. Like if they don't have to be like, oh man, we really need Jermod back earlier than we anticipated. We're really pushing to get Jermod back. I think that's a huge win for a UT. And it also puts less pressure on sliding McMurray down, right? Like it seems like McMurray is probably the favorite to start at star early on over Boo at least the first game. Maybe we see some Boo. Like that's still a see it to believe it type deal on Saturday in terms of what Boo's role is going to be. But I think they're kind of thin there. There's a lot of freshmen. They like Ty Redmond out of Milton, but that's a lot of pressure to put on him as a true freshman. I think they quietly kind of need Colton Hood to be a plug and play good player for them.
McMurray would be a good answer to your question too, just because of the situation with Boo. But
yeah.
I expect Boo to be on the field pretty quick. I mean, I expect him to be out there in a hurry. I think most of the disciplinary stuff is probably over and done with. He may not get to start, but he's going to be on the field, I would say, pretty early on out there contributing. Maybe not on offense, but definitely on defense.
Final thing here. I've gone back and forth on this, Cody. It's hard to see it, hard to find it on my end. But do you think Tennessee has an upset loss this fall? Is there an Arkansas on this schedule?
I'm going to say no. And I know that's dangerous because it tends to happen. But I just don't see it this year. Now, if you're just looking at point spread, if you go down to Florida, perhaps by then you're dealing with a 6-4, 5-5 Florida team. Like you might be a slight favorite there and slip up and lose that game. So if I were answering that question in November, I might say yes, but we just don't know how the season's going to play out with Florida. And so as it stands right now, I don't expect Tennessee to be a favorite at Florida. Or I do expect Tennessee to maybe be it'll be tight, but I don't consider that to be a big upset is what I mean. I don't expect, like, if you lose to Alabama or Georgia, that's not an upset loss. So you're talking about a Mississippi State and Arkansas. To me, the most dangerous one is at Kentucky. But as Tennessee fans know, that's just not something that we accept. And I say that, take that with a grain of salt because I don't think Kentucky's any good. I think Mark Stoops is getting fired this year. I think you got a pretty nice road draw. The only real answer to that question for me would be Florida, and that just depends on where the point spread is at the time because you're not losing that Arkansas game this year. That's a revenge game. I mean, think, 2023 South Carolina. You remember that one? Yeah. That's the vibe for me in this Arkansas game. You're going to hammer them in Neyland. I don't think Syracuse could beat you. So I think for the first time this year, we're going to see Tennessee take care of business. Oklahoma, I mean, that'll be a tight spread. It's a pretty simple schedule for me. It's win all the games you're supposed to, and then you got 4 swing games. I mean, Oklahoma and Florida are swing games that are more winnable. And then, Georgia and Alabama would be icing on the cake kind of games.
Let me put this to you. You beat Florida and then the streak in Gainesville or Alabama this year, but you also drop a Kentucky game. Would you rather go 9-3 that way or 9-3 the way where you don't have any upset losses and you lose to the big 3?
So my win is which one, at Florida or at Alabama?
Yeah, or even Georgia at home. Like you get one of those games off your back and you get to enjoy a win there for the first time in forever in all 3 capacities, but you also get upset to 9-3. Or would you rather just take the chalk 9-3?
It's a tough question because I feel like it makes me a little bit of a hypocrite because I've said I hate a season where you're 9-3 and you don't beat any of your rivals, but I think I might hate losing in Lexington way more than that. So I think I got to go chalk.
I think I do too. I do think it would be great to beat Georgia at home, but I think it depends on, like, Kentucky would really frustrate me. Losing to Kentucky on the road would be brutal because it's also like that knocks you out of the playoff. In this scenario, if you beat one of these rivals for the first time, like Georgia just outright or in Tuscaloosa or in Gainesville, that means you're trending towards 10-2 and you're a CFP team again. And then to miss out if you dropped Kentucky or something or Arkansas at home, that'd be brutal. That would be absolutely brutal.
You're exactly what Ole Miss did last year. You lose to Kentucky 100%. At home and you beat Georgia. Yeah. I mean, that's what happened to them. So, yeah.
I don't think they enjoyed that. I don't think that fan base was on board with that development.
I don't either.
Cody McClure, what can the good folks check out from you over at fanrunradio.com where you're writing articles and manage a team over there, but also talk sports 7 to 10 Monday through Friday. What can you plug as we wrap up here today?
Yeah, man, just check out the show. If you like to be entertained, that's kind of our thing. We're about half sports, half entertainment. We have a good time, 7 to 10. Show usually starts about 8:30 when I wake up, but it goes on air at 7. So, and then, fanrunradio.com. I could use your page views. So
there you go.
Try to
subscribe.
Keep some interesting stuff up there.
Absolutely. Go check it out, fanrunradio.com. Support Cody and listen to Talk Sports 7 to 10, Monday through Friday, Eastern Standard Time. Cody McClure, always a pleasure, my friend, and I'll see you tomorrow.
All right. Thank you, brother. See you.
All right, we're back here on the Chase Thomas podcast, where I'm now joined by a first-timer, Dale Dowden, covering the Tennessee Volunteers on SI, all things recruiting. Saw Braylon Outlaw in person, one of the 3 2026 linebackers in the class for the Tennessee Volunteers. William Inge, big-time class here with TJ White, Brayden Rouse, but the kind of forgotten one in Braylon Outlaw, high three-star kid out of, is it Pikesville, Alabama?
Pike Road, Alabama.
There he goes, Pike Road, Alabama.
Yep.
And just a tackling machine and just a great player. What did you see from Braylon Outlaw, the kind of overlooked linebacker in this 26 class this past week?
Well, to be fair, don't want to cut him any short, but I was actually able to see Brayden Rouse as well already this year.
Oh, yeah.
2 of the 3.
Mm-hmm.
This was my first chance really to be around Outlaw, to see him in any type of a setting. One thing that definitely stood out, the lateral movement sideline to sideline is definitely there. And when he hits very violently. It runs through the ball carrier, very disruptive. Was all over the field. At various times they line him up almost coming off the edge, just in some blitz packages. Very high motor. Very solid pickup for Inge, just to be a 3-star for most sites. Definitely a gem that Inge got with that one.
What was the most surprising thing you saw from Braylon Outlaw that you have to see in person? It's like one of those things you can watch some huddle tape, but like you seeing him in person, is it just the way he hits, like that violent nature? What is it?
The physicality of the hitting, really. I mean, you see a little bit of that on film, but when you're dealing with skybox film going in the angle, it's hard to see exactly what that trajectory is really like, and to see him just running through people. I know the quarterback from Prattville, he came off his feet at one point to throw the ball and caught Outlaw in the chest midway doing it, and it took him a few seconds to get up. Like I was really I wasn't sure if he was going to be taken out of the game permanently. He was able to catch his breath to come back in. Thankfully, no injury or anything, but it looked a lot worse than what it was when it initially happened.
What does he play 2 ways?
If he does, I didn't notice him a whole lot in that game playing 2 ways. That was one thing I definitely paid attention for, because Rouse, he pretty much plays both sides of the ball at Kel, and you really don't have a chance to take a break with him because just as many plays he makes defensively is just efficient on offense as well. Did
you talk to Outlaw after the game?
Yes, sir.
What did you gather from him and where he's at, just getting ahead of his senior season here?
Well, coming into the season, recruiting wise, Auburn, Ole Miss, I think, was the one that was in play, and they're no longer in play, and now it's the in-state Auburn that's still steadily knocking at the door. But based on what he was saying, I don't feel like right now Tennessee has anything to worry about. He was honest about it, that they were still there, but he was still pretty locked in with Tennessee.
When you look at Brayden Rouse, the number 1 of the 3, like you said, at Cal, back in the home state. I mean, he's a player, big win over Texas in that recruitment. What did you see from Brayden Rouse in person?
Just a ball player. Just a certified ball player. He's a guy, obviously, he has the look, the size you want at a high school linebacker coming out. The interesting thing I think I've learned most about Rouse is having a personal friend that actually coached him while he was at Cal, and now he's moved on. He's coaching a school closer to home now. But he was telling me, that when Rouse first got to high school, kind of average size for what you would see in a freshman, that nobody really seen anything just spectacular about him. And then really between his sophomore and junior season took a major jump. obviously he was already trending that way, and then I guess the physical body just developed, really started seeing what type of a playmaker he could be, which I thought was very interesting, and it kind of makes sense to the timeline of why some schools were kind of late getting in on him, especially at the linebacker position. But then you get him on offense, and it's just a mismatch there because you see this guy move so well to be the size he is, and at 6'2", 6'3", and just a physical guy. If he goes up for a ball, you're going to have a physical DB to go up and even contend with it, or not, you're going to get picked on all night.
Was there part of you watching him play both ways where you're like, are we sure he's not an offensive guy?
Oh, I even joked with him, and I asked him, I said, how many more catches do you have to make before Alec Ablin starts talking to Inge about using you on the offensive side? And he kind of laughed it off, and he said, well, I think the coach that's next in line to get me, has dibs on me, is Coach Chop. He wants to do some edge stuff with me.
Yeah, and I mean, Chop has got some interesting guys in here. I mean, Christian Gass, I'm sure you saw last year, the 4-star out of Covington, big battle, Tennessee won over Georgia. We haven't seen him. He's been banged up, and I think he will be back, next month. I think he will not be ready right out of the gate for Tennessee. But interesting Leo guy, someone who can play all over the field, and Brayden Rouse might be one of those guys who you can move him around, and he's just a ball player, right? Like, he kind of seems to me, from what I see, he's like he's like A+ Aaron Beasley. You know what I mean? Where Aaron Beasley was super fast and seems like he's someone who could be a tight end too, with just his look and everything else, where he can just fly. But I think he doesn't have the natural talent that Brayden Rouse does. I think he was a good player, but Brayden Rouse has like special all around.
He just has some raw ability that's been untapped, and with that, the ceiling is extremely high. So
when you look at the three, who has been? You haven't seen TJ White in person yet, have you?
I've seen TJ in person at the Rivals camp in Indianapolis. Now, granted, it's shirts and shorts, but you could see the flashes of what he can bring.
So if you had to break down the difference between the big three there, like one big trait for all three, what would it be?
Rouse probably overall the most athletic of the three. It's kind of hard to say this when we're not seeing White in pads, but I would have to say right now that from what I've seen, Outlaw may be the hardest hitter. But then I think TJ possesses just some of the natural instinct that you would want to see from a linebacker. Because I know during the 7-on-7 portion of the Rivals camp, he undercut a pass from Briggs Cherry, who Louisville commit out of Chattanooga, and just read his lunchbox and just took it the other way. And like it happened so quick that like me and Sam Spiegel were just like, who just picked that? Because he jumped it so quick. And without those basic traits of a linebacker, IQ wise, you don't see those plays being made.
I love it. Vol fans have got to be excited about this linebacker class. They're all very different, and I just think William Inge has just done a phenomenal job in 2 years at Tennessee. Like, he's just stacking dudes. They're not all going to work out. Like, that's just a numbers game. Like some of these, but man, it's an iron sharpens iron type of deal where there's just so much talent in that room right now.
One thing that kind of reminds me of, you could probably make a comparison to an earlier class. Now, granted, most of them didn't even stay; they all dispersed. This may be probably the most loaded linebacking class since the years where you got A.J. Johnson, Kurt Magid, and was it Jalen Reeves-Maben in that class or two, one behind each other. To me, that's kind of what it has that feel of being.
I mean, that'd be big time for the University of Tennessee if that's the case. And I feel really good about the two guys this year. I mean, Edwin Spillman, I think, is just going to be a star. Like, Edwin is probably next man up, but I wouldn't discount. I mean, this last cycle, they only had two, but I know you saw Jaden Harmon and Jaden Perlotti at Buford and Rome last year. And I mean, two very different guys, but the sky is the limit.
Each other very well.
Yeah, 100%. Because like Jaden Harmon's just, I think, did Inge refer to him as like a snake, kind of the way he moves around back there. I want to see compared to like yeah, like he's just kind of slithery and stuff. And then like Perlotti is the one he was like, I don't have to worry about like getting him like basically like he's all systems go. Like Perlotti is intense where you got to slow him down
and turn him loose. Offensive line is going to play hell, keeping him out of the backfield.
100%. Hezekiah Harris. might be flipping. We'll see. He's making his a final. I guess it's kind of weird that he's making like a final commitment when he's already committed, but on September 1st.
To me, that's kind of, I don't want to buy too much into it, but I was thinking about that on the way home today. I was like, the kid is already committed.
Right.
If it was Auburn, wouldn't it just simply be a recruitment shutdown?
Yes.
Right. You know, like maybe he's wanting to draw it for the attention. You know, we get a lot of that these days. But if I was Auburn, I would have to feel a bit nervous just by the way that he's conducting that.
Yeah, I'm with you. It makes no sense to do a public recommitting.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of like a vow renewal, and you're just like, I don't know. It's just kind of odd. You don't see that in high school recruiting. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense because we see that all the time. Guys shut it down. They're just like, I'm good. I'm done. Please stop calling me. This is where I'm going. But the fact that he is making a public announcement, I think if you're one of the top contenders for Hezekiah Harris at the Leo side, because
for sure.
I think if you're Tennessee, you feel good. Like this is happening on September 1st. And I do kind of wonder if this is what Tom Loy of 24/7 Sports was hinting at. Because I mean, he had a piece over there on his side about like Tennessee could push for a top 5 class. And I was doing the math here where I'm like, even if you flip Tristan Keys, that's not going to put you in the top 5. It'll put you in the top 10 firmly. Like you will have a top 10 class the first in the Heupel era. But whether it's rivals, whether it's on 3, before they're all split up, or 24/7, like it's still, you need another one. And it was like when I was looking at who's left on the board, where I was like, okay, Hyder's off the board. You're not flipping Hyder down the stretch. And I'm like, who else makes sense? And it's like the only other one to me was Tristan Givens, the 5-star kid out of Carver, where Jarvis Jones is the head coach back in Georgia, where Tennessee, it seemed like, was in the final 2 with him and Texas A&M. And I'm like, okay, if you flip Keys and Givens, then we could probably talk about top 5. Then I could think you're probably pushing and you're right in the ballpark. But Hezekiah Harris, man, he's top 100 player, 4-star Leo. And that's the kind of, I don't want to say dirty little secret, but kind of the most interesting part about this 26 class to me with Tennessee. And I'm curious if you think it's the same, is that Zach Groves, I don't think is Leo at Tennessee. He's huge. Like you look at his measurables, he has that Marion Dye measurables where I'm like, you don't lose weight once you get to college. Like he's already like 240 and huge. And I'm like, that's a strong side defensive end. I don't think he's playing Leo at Tennessee. So you look at it and you're like, CJ Edwards, Leo, but 3-star project, Kedrick Golson the second, 3-star. I think project, you hope you can get something out of those guys. But you don't actually have like the Jordan Rosses, the Caleb Herrings, the James Pierce. You don't really have that right now, which is weird because Coach Job, you can argue, is the best recruiter on the staff. So if they flip Hezekiah Harris, it's a sneaky, like they kind of needed him because you never can have enough of these guys. You can never stack enough for blue chip Leos. And I think Hezekiah Harris, you look at his tape, man, he's a good player, right?
Yes. And, you know, and the thing about it is it wouldn't be a shock. You know, you touched on Coach Chop. Coach Chop. He's involved with a multitude of recruitments. Like that's one of the most common names you hear from most prospects, whether they're an edge guy or not. You know, Coach Chop is one of those guys that everybody seems to gravitate to. And they have worked this situation extensively for quite some time.
They played the long game.
Yes, a lot of it, you know, kind of under radar. You know, I know even last year, multiple times they were trying to get him in on campus, and he would pop up on visit list, and he'd be one of those guys that, you know, hey, you know, don't release anything about it now. You know, once he gets here, we don't care. But the issue is we've got to get him here first. You know, they didn't want Auburn catching wind on Tuesday that he was expected to be in Knoxville and then have them go kill the visit. So he's a guy that they've prioritized and they've pursued for a pretty extensive long time.
So you talked to the 2027 5-star running back out of Baylor, just Eric Kimry, just popping out, just dude after dude. Tennessee's obviously got a couple with Big Squish, 5-star tackle from Canada, Gabriel Osenda, and then Jamion Theodore as well.
You got 2 already on roster.
Yeah, like a lot.
Jefferson and Dotson.
And it was kind of surprising because I thought that one might, because he's a South Carolina guy, that I wondered if that was actually going to be a place where Tennessee could go in and get guys, but clearly that's not a problem because Tennessee is going into that well. Amari Jefferson now too, like they just keep going to that well, which, hey, a lot of talent at Baylor, and you saw it up close. So what did you get from David Gabriel Georges, and do you think he has potential? Because it seems like I know a lot of fans are kind of bummed out about not landing Savion Hyder finishing second there. But do you see a possibility where he's even a better prospect and someone Tennessee even has a better chance of landing in 27?
Very much so. I'm not going to say this to throw him under the bus. I think he'd be comfortable with me saying this because it's something that we both stated to David Friday, which is me and Matt Ray at VolQuest. He was there at the game as well, and we both agree. Looking at the 2027 class, I don't know that you find many more backs that are overall as effective and gifted as he is. I mean, he's obviously not, where he needs to be a first-year starter, in a major college. There's a few little things to develop on. But that's the big important thing is the kid's just a junior. He's got another year of development, getting used to pass pro, things of that nature. But Matt and I were talking, if you took and combined the 26 and 27 class, I think he's a top 5 back with both combined classes at running back.
Wow.
And could make a strong case for being the top back. So it's one of those, it's kind of apples to oranges when you want to compare, but in terms of the conversation, if I were Tennessee fans, like you said, I'm not sure they end up flipping Hyder, down the stretch. Not that he's a consolation prize, but you do have to look ahead to the next year to where I think David Gabriel Georges is your Hyder of next year's class. Very gifted guy. I'll actually tell you the first time I saw him in person was last year when they played Raven Gap on ESPN. So I'm aware of Hezekiah Mills' night at the time. Well, I'm sitting there watching the game, and I'm like, okay. And it took me about 3 or 4 plays to register that the jersey number was different because the kid was built just like Hezekiah was last year as a sophomore.
Wow.
And if anybody's ever seen pictures or video of Hezekiah, he's a very physically gifted running back himself, who I anticipate touching the field in some phase at Ole Miss this year. But I was sitting there, I was like, okay. I was like, number 1, switch to 0. I'm like, did his jersey malfunction? And then I find out through the course of the game that it's a completely different kid. So I'm joking with Hezekiah after the game. And I said, just found out that your running mate number 0 is just a sophomore. And just the biggest smile hit his face. He said, oh, yeah. He said, when I'm gone, this place is definitely left in good hands. I said, well, I hope you don't mind if a few people thinking that he may end up being better than you were by the time he leaves. Because I'm not sure he's not better than me now. That comes from Hezekiah. And, and like I said, Hezekiah, obviously, a coveted back himself. Everybody was kind of after him. Ole Miss gets him. And, over 1,100 yards as a backup, I think speaks for itself, especially as a sophomore. And I think a lot of people, if you watch the state title game with them and McCauley, which was a rematch, if he doesn't get hurt, I'm not too sure that McCauley comes back in that game. Watching the game, it seemed like they were dialed in on Hezekiah. Hezekiah had a rough start getting anything going. It didn't seem like they had an answer for Georges. And then the moment he goes down, the focus switches to stopping Hezekiah, and then forcing everything deep beyond that is like they made Baylor play into their game plan at that point. So I'm really high on the David Gabriel Georges. There are a few guys in that 27 class that are all worthy of being prioritized by Tennessee or various others. I just think that a lot of people down the stretch are going to look at it as that's the top guy.
And that's why I think Tennessee fans should not be surprised if they don't take it back this class now. Because, they flipped DeJuan Morris late. But, you should expect that you're going to get Peyton Lewis back for one more year. You expect to have Deshaun Bishop back for one more year. He seems like a 4-year guy. And then DeJuan Morris should be able to step right in and help you in year 2. And Justin Baker as well from Buford. So you don't really need – you can take another transfer to fill out that backfield if you need to. But you can actually get away with not taking it back this cycle. And also it'd probably be nice for David Gabriel Georges to see, hey, we're not just going to take one to take somebody. We're still going all in on you. And you're our biggest priority in 27. So, and then the deck is cleared, because Peyton Lewis, if he has great 2 years here, he's gone. Bishop might be gone. And then it's like you and DeJuan Morris, 2 in-state guys. Y'all could be the top 2 backs at Tennessee and do a whole lot with it. And anyone who watches prep football here in the state of Tennessee, imagine DeJuan Morris and David Gabriel Georges on the same team that's a cheat code.
Oh, yeah. The great thing about it is I think we have a coach now that would understand how to utilize both of those guys at the same time. We've had a coach in recent years that had 2 very special gifted backs, each in their own respect, and couldn't figure out a way to get them on the field at the same time.
I think I know who you might be talking about here, Dale. who is your favorite under the radar recruit in the 26th class for Tennessee right now?
A kid that's committed or?
Yeah, currently committed. Yeah.
Okay. I think I may actually stick with the one that just flipped to Tennessee from South Carolina last week in Kamari Blair.
Okay. Have you seen him in person?
I have not seen him in person.
Okay.
Other than I've talked to him after a visit, but as far as seeing him compete, I've heard a lot of good things about him, and a lot of what I've heard obviously is supported by game film. Just think that he's one of those guys that he has the size that a lot of coaches will be looking for. And I think the biggest key that he has is he's so raw and youthful in what he does that for a college coach, they don't have to break any necessary bad habits, if that makes sense, to where they can bring him in instead of worried about breaking habits and then rebuilding. They're bringing him in and just straight building from the ground up. Which to me, I think, I don't want to say it makes an easy path to the field, but we'll give him extra time to pursue that versus, hey, let's work on your stance or work about your hand placement on this. He doesn't have any, I guess, a lot of bad habits, that you come in and just teach up what you do, and very high ceiling. I think Kamari Blair could be a kid that turns around in 2 or 3 years and people looking at that like that was a major flip and nobody even knew it at the time.
Do you think he's a tackle or a guard at Tennessee?
I would probably have to say tackle right now, just again because I've not had the opportunity away from film of seeing them in person to see how quick that first step is. I'd probably say tackle right now, but I would probably say that moving forward, he might be a guy that they try to move back to the inside, just for the versatility of it. But right now, probably a tackle.
Yeah, because I feel like they're going to have to figure that out with him and JB Shabazz, right?
Yes.
Like, I think one of those guys is going to have to shift inside. You're not taking 3 tackles in this class, or you won't keep them. Like, it's just, it's Gage Ginther, right?
Numbers won't allow it to happen.
Like Sham Umarov, he moves inside. He was a tackle at Denmark, and Gage Ginther was a tackle in high school. That's why I didn't understand like the Darius Gray stuff, where I just can't spend big in the NIL era on a guy who can only play guard. He might be the best guard in college football. I would much rather have spend big on a Kamari Blair than Darius Gray because he could be a tackle, he could be a guard, and I need that versatility because you just don't know until you get to campus and what your numbers look like. I need a guy who can go inside if need be and be on the outside if need be,
That's kind of, I'm glad you brought that up because that was something I had as a discussion whenever, Kamari Blair flips, then a few days later, Darius Gray commits to South Carolina. So I posed the question, it's like, well, what were their plans for, Blair? Because if they recruited him in as a tackle, you would think him having the knowledge that number one interior guy coming would make him stay.
Right.
So either they had plans for Blair at guard, and they found out they were taking the number one, and he backed out. Because I just don't see you having the angle to where you're having him at 2 different positions. Yeah. Blair knows he's coming, and instead of sticking and having a monstrous line class, leaves.
Yeah. It would be interesting to know. That's like one of those you'd love to have the conversations. Like, be like, all right, honestly, what was your thinking here? I am curious because it's just the timing. It's just the timing and everything else. Like Hezekiah Harris, he's publicly announcing a recommitment. That seems unlikely. that seems odd.
And that's what I tell people about Blair. The Blair flip to me wasn't a shock in terms of the actual flip itself. It was a shock of how soon it came. Like, it was one of those, Tennessee.
Yeah, he was only committed for what, 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks?
Something like that. Yeah, it wasn't nothing crazy. And even then, he's originally had told someone, that at the end of the day, Tennessee was just late to the party. And so hearing that comment, it's like, I know Tennessee's not laying down on that one. Like, they're going to, pursue him till signing day.
I mean, they did that with DeJuan Morris last year.
Yeah, and it's like, so if that's truly his mindset and he remains open, he will give them the opportunity to flip him. And if Tennessee hits it hard like they usually do with a lot of their guys, they'll make up that ground in the 6 months that they missed over the year and a half. And if Tennessee truly was that dream school, they'll make the marriage seem worth it.
100%. It's a great tackle class. I mean, the offensive line recruiting, Glenn Ellerby takes a lot of heat for developing some guys, but man, it's different. Like these last two classes, there's a lot of talent in these last two classes.
His assistant, Kevin Pendleton, also needs a shout out on that one. He does a very, very good job with engaging a lot of these guys.
Yeah, it's a good group, and I'm excited to see a couple new starters there this year, and I think you're still going to have a couple. Like, we'll see where Max Anderson's at. We'll see where Satterwhite's at next year, because I think a lot of fans are looking at it like, oh, if Satterwhite doesn't start the year as center, and then it's Pendleton as we expect, that doesn't mean Pendleton will stay at center next year or stay at center this whole year. Like, you're going to have different pieces on the – like, he might slide over to guard. He's just a temporary center before Satterwhite might just need an extra year to get ready, and then Satterwhite runs with it. Or Max Anderson runs with it at center and that sort of thing. And Shea Mumarov might stick around for one more year, and he might be your Andre Carrick type guy. And so I think there's going to be multiple Glenn Ellerby, Kevin Pendleton recruited guys starting on the offensive line over the next couple of years. So I wouldn't panic about that. We'll get you out of here on this, Dale. George MacIntyre or Faizon Brandon, who intrigues you the most of these last two quarterbacks for Tennessee? What makes them different in terms of upside and prospects? And what have you seen in person and heard about both?
Oh man, you have a lot of similarities. You do have some differences with the two. The one thing for George, and not to take a shot at anybody, his surrounding cast for the most part at Brentwood, most people wouldn't consider on the elite level. We'll just say it that way. So when you're dealing with guys like that, where they are that much superior to the surrounding cast, you have to train your eye to look for different things. Like, you can't always look for an attempt to completion ratio. Because if you're throwing to guys that obviously are not going to play college ball at the next level, you may not hit all those connections. The big thing for me was a lot of the fundamental stuff for George. The active feet in the pocket, making progressions through the defense. When you had time getting off a pass that was catchable. I know one play sticks out like crazy, which was last year they played Baylor. He takes a snap and immediately gets pressured, and I don't want to. He runs about 2 or 3 steps to the side and just lets go of I don't even remember how far this ball traveled. I know at least it was 40 yards in the air, and hits a kid dead in stride. Just that quick, of a pickup on the pressure and getting the ball off. It's like that takes some high IQ from a quarterback to be able to do that. Obviously what you'd want in a quarterback. As far as the 6'6", not quite there weight wise. That'll come. He has upside to him for sure. Can make a lot of difficult throws. Like, I've watched him routinely make the far or inside hash to far sideline out route. I've seen him hit those consistently. And I looked over at somebody like, that's the things you have to look for. There's a percentage of college and NFL quarterbacks who can't do that consistently. Faizon, on the other hand, I've seen Faizon a few times as well. First time seeing him in person was not this past Elite 11 in Atlanta, but the year before. So he shows up. The interesting thing with Faizon is he, at high school, is in a shotgun style of an offense. Yeah. So, at the Elite 11, everything, they're throwing everything at you. The thing that impressed me the most about Faizon that day, and he ended up winning an award for the most improved, I think, that day, was just seeing a young man who was so raw and inexperienced in certain drills because he just never had to do them at high school. You start talking to a kid that runs shotgun about a 3-step drop, he has no idea what you're talking about. So a lot of this stuff, they're getting them under center doing different drills, and you can see the uncomfortableness about it. But then, the coach back, oh no, and the coach walk over, correct him, have him run it again, and the second time he ran it was like he was the one demonstrating the drill. So his ability to be a sponge and truly pick up what the coach puts into him that quick, and then to, exemplify it was very impressive, especially for a young quarterback. It was at the time, I'll say he was coming out of his sophomore season, I believe that we are coming out of the sophomore year. And I'm like, if he had the coaching ability to be able to take coaching like that and then put it back out that quick, there's no limitation on a kid that can process information like that, and then obviously has the physical tools to go with it. At that specific camp, by far the best quarterback that was throwing on the run. Like he could roll out and just laser point, the comeback route on the sideline. And I'm looking around, and a lot of people were buzzing. I actually had somebody make the comment, and it was their first time seeing Faizon as well. They walked up to me, and don't crucify me, Tennessee fans, for bringing this up, but he walks over and he says, if that young man keeps working and developing the way that he is, he's going to show up at Tennessee better than what number 8 is at that time. People can take that for what it's worth. I know some people feel like, Nico wasn't everything that was said about, but, at that time, that was kind of a hot topic. And I kind of looked and I was like, it's a heck of a statement to make, and after watching the rest of the day, and then obviously I've seen Faizon, I think 2 or 3 times since then, and just seeing where he was and where he's at now. And I'll just be honest, for me, and obviously I'm not Coach Halsley or Hop or anything like that, but unless they get a grad transfer, another one next year, it's going to be very hard to keep Faizon off the field in year 1.
It's why I've said, everyone's talked about house money for George this year, where him having a good fall camp, it's great. He's not expected to play. I'm like,
Yep.
I don't know, man. If you're George and you want to, you've got Faizon coming in December, you actually kind of want a sneaky opportunity to play.
Yes.
You actually want an opportunity to showcase what you can be down the stretch this year. If you get a real game action.
At some point before he gets there.
Yes, because once Faizon's there, man, it's going to be really hard based on everyone you talk to and hear about this kid, that it's just going to be very hard to keep him off the field.
And it's one of those problems. If you're Tennessee, you love to have it.
Yes.
You've got, away from, Joey, of course, should be going after this year, with the 3 guys you should have in that room. All 3 talented young guys. Personally, all 3 of them, very great people. Probably one of the better quarterback situations as a whole unit that Hop and them may possibly have had since being there. It's just like you said, when Faizon gets there, everything is house money at that point. If you want to prove yourself, you better get to it.
Yeah, it's like that, David. It's almost like David Sanders, where it's like, look, we can't promise you anything, Larry Johnson or anybody else, but the fact is, it's David Sanders. He's the number 1 tackle in the class. He's going to be coming in right, and to his credit, it seems like he's done everything right, put on the weight, worked it, and it's going to be your starting right tackle out of the gate here. So it's just kind of like Faizon might come in that same way, and then I imagine people saw him, they're like, oh, this is a different kind of true freshman right tackle. This guy's future left tackle, star, first round guy. He's different. And that might happen with Faizon.
And Tennessee definitely handled the situation with Sanders very well too.
Yeah.
A lot of the talk coming out from spring, that he was working with the 2s and 3s. They gradually let him move up. A lot of people was like, well, if he's projected this, yes, we got a long time from spring until fall.
Yeah.
The last thing you want to do is take a kid like that who has a mentality of, hey, I'm ready. You throw him out there, he gets, abused the first couple of days because he's adjusting to everything.
Yeah.
And then you crush his mental stability. You don't want to do that.
No, because it's going to be hard. We'll see what he looks like. Caden Proctor was not good his first year at Alabama. They threw him out as a true freshman. It's hard. It's different kind of grind, different kind of body types here in the SEC.
Yes.
Dale Dowden, what can the good folks check out from you over at Tennessee Volunteers on Sports Illustrated this week?
I've still got one more story coming from the game I was at Friday, which should be the big Gabe Ascenda piece. I am heading back into Alabama this week, going to check in on the 2027 linebacker. Almost kind of wish the Hezekiah Harris news had came out a little bit sooner. I might have had a different destination.
They're not close where you're going, so it's not on the way or anything.
Yeah, no, unfortunately it's not. I looked at it at work today just to double check. I was like, well, if I could leave an extra hour early, I might be able to swing this, but these are too far out. So we're having content from that coming. We got a good staff covering pretty much everything that drops Tennessee. So we also have some staff predictions coming from, as far as a full schedule prediction, as well as the Syracuse game itself coming. So stay tuned for that. You can find all that at Vols on SI. Social media, Twitter and Facebook is at Vols on SI as well.
I love it. Well, Dale, thank you so much for making the time this evening. Glad we were able to connect and do this, and we'll do this again soon.
Thank you for having me, and look forward to it.
Nicely done, nephew. The Chase Thomas Podcast. Hell yeah.